Welcome to Tell Me a Story, the podcast. I'm Nathaniel Hansen, and today I'm going to be joined by Ryan. You will know him from a recent episode of Finite, where he tries to sell my character some stuff. And you'll also know him from the Nathaniel's Kitchen, where I cook stuff and he happened to try it. I'm excited to talk to him about both some of the projects he's helped me work on, as well as some projects he's working on, as well as just how we got to know each other. So just stay around after the intro and we're going to jump right into it. Okay, so first off, I want to say hello, Ryan. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on the show and the podcast. It's really cool to be here, and I'm doing all right.
That's fantastic. I am excited to have you here for a few reasons. But first off, let's kind of go over our story a little bit of how we kind of got to know each other, how you kind of got involved with Finite and Nathaniel's Kitchen and just kind of XVU in general. So it kind of goes back a little bit. I think it was middle of last year to late last year. I can't remember the exact month it was, but it was kind of like in the middle of COVID, and you worked at, so let's start off saying we work at a supermarket chain in our area, and you were working at one of the bigger stores in the area that I had previously worked at, and then I happened to move the previous year to a different store, and from there though I got a manager that I really liked working with, who then moved back to the store that I had come from, which happened to be the store you were at the time, which is the store we are both currently at, and then I decided to come with him. And then it happened that I got to keep the shifts that I was enjoying doing, which were very early shifts, and so I was opening the department for a couple days in the week, which then one of those mornings, I believe, you came in, and we just kind of started working together, and it worked really well, and I randomly was like, "You're pretty cool, I like you," or something like that. And then what did you respond? Do you remember?
I don't right away, I don't know if that makes me a bad person or not, but I don't remember what I said right off. I don't really remember how we even came to talk about, I guess, your projects or like anything. I don't remember like half that interaction, I guess. I just remember like showing up one morning. I was like, this guy's here way earlier than I am normal to. The certain parts of work were all set up and stuff, like things that I would be doing in the morning was already set. And I was like, who's this guy? Like nobody really told me anything about you at the time. Like it was just kind of like, oh, here's a new guy. And I was like, oh, he's working at this early in the morning. That must be awful. But so I don't remember off the top of my head.
I believe you pretty much echoed what I said, but also pretty much said what you said, that it was just like, this is weird, but I appreciate you being here. I'm just making my life easier. Something along those lines. But from there, we've kind of gotten to know each other, mostly at work, and then I believe it was in May of 2021 when previously I had mentioned about the projects and what I do, and you seemed interested and thought it was cool, and I had asked you if you were interested in eventually being a part of it, and you were like, yeah, sure, whatever, anytime. And I was like, cool. Of course, we were still in the middle of COVID, and I was, not really actively filming with many people. In fact, there's some crazy stuff on my YouTube channel of that period where I was all by myself, just filming myself. And anyways, you guys can check that out. But eventually I figured out a couple projects that I was like, hey, I'd love your help with these. And you happen to be on vacation. I'm like, perfect. That makes it really easy to schedule. And so one of them was Nathaniel's Kitchen, which you helped me record and just be a part of the first 3 that have been made. Currently, I think only 2 of them are out, and then a 3rd one will be coming out next month. And then that same day, you helped me film 2 episodes of Finite. One of them is actually, I think both of them might be currently out. But yeah. So that was an experience because, like, I think up to that point, I appreciated your personality. I liked you as a person, you know, and I was really interested to just see what you would do. And it's very, I absolutely love what we were able to create together on those 2 projects. Which brings up an interesting fact that as you are being on this podcast, you are the only person who's been either, or actually one of 2 people, other than myself, who have been on all of the different projects that are currently running, you know, all of the main shows that are going, which is Finite, Cine, Nathaniel's Kitchen, and this podcast, Tell Me a Story. The other one is Kaylee and myself, of course. But that's kind of, that I find that interesting how quickly that's happened, since you only started helping back in May. And now we're just like, yeah, let's get you involved in all of these things. And I appreciate the help quite a bit. So let's talk a little bit about the podcast, because you actually had a huge hand in, you know, helping me develop it / you know, push me a little further along of actually creating it and taking the steps to do it and trying to figure out how I wanted to do it and what it would be and stuff. I had ideas of wanting to do a podcast before we had chatted, but I wasn't quite there yet. And then we had a discussion when we were filming an episode of Cine, actually a part of Dr. Z. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's funny because the podcast conversation kind of happened off of we were just, I don't know, it felt like we were making just small talk as we were kind of shooting in random locations out in this trail, and I happened to mention how that there's me and one of my like longtime best friends, how we would always just talk sports together, and there's like tons of sports podcast out there, but I was like, we've always just like had these really like what we called like hot takes and thoughts on sports that maybe not a lot of other analysts had or whatever. And we've always talked sports since we were kids, you know, on like hour-long car rides. It was nonstop, always had something to talk about. And that's where it started for me and like my like interest in podcasts. And then as I got older, you know, I started listening to a few when I would have like longer travels, and so it's just funny that while we're out there shooting a totally different project that you were working on, not knowing that it would spark some sort of other interest in another, I guess, like avenue that you can take your creative like talents to, and which ended up being the Tell Me a Story podcast now that you have created. So that's just kind of how it happened. It was just us talking, going down a trail, shooting something totally different. It was just off topic and just in between little shots that you were doing, just talking about that, and that's kind of how it started. I had questions, and obviously you have the experience and a lot of the media parts of it, and I have like these thoughts about it. So then I think we just kind of were spitballing back and forth, and I think it gave way to this idea that you've birthed, and it came forward as Tell Me a Story. So I just think it's pretty cool how that just happened organically. Definitely wasn't forced at all.
Yeah, and once again, I appreciate your help on this, and just kind of, once again, I'm sure this might have happened eventually, but I think at the time, just your interest in the idea of it existing kind of like pushed me a little further along to be like, yeah, let's do this. And now you're here on the show itself. So when going along with that, when we were filming the other project, which was your part in Doctor Z. Now we can't talk about it too much because the audience, people listening may not have seen it yet, because it's not, in the public arena yet for people to, decide if they like it or whatnot. And anyways, without going into detail, what was kind of your experience going into it? I'm interested to know what your personal thoughts were going into it, during it, and like after it, like, and then even more so, kind of. I actually don't know. Have you seen the put together clip of it?
I haven't. I think you've shown me a few bits and pieces that I believe are going to be part of this, what I like to call a universe that you've kind of created. So there's not much that I know about it. So that's why I wouldn't say, like, that was what sparked my interest a little bit. And it's not like, without spoilers, it's not like my character or the part I was playing when we were shooting ends up being anything too significant, but it was just funny to be part of it. But I don't have much of a clue on the other stuff. It's more of a mystery to me too, as it is a mystery to the other people that have to kind of watch and wait. And I'm kind of in the same boat, really. I just happen to be a part of it now, but in a very small and minor detail. But it's fun for me to just be a part of it.
Yeah, that's great. Do you moving on to the first project you helped me work on, which came before that one, but we had a day that we shot multiple different things. We shot 2 episodes of Finite, and we shot 3 episodes, I'm sorry, of Nathaniel's Kitchen. So talking about Finite, your character kind of was very like most things in Finite, just randomly put together and just kind of appeared out of nowhere, which is, once again, one of my favorite parts of doing Finite is just what happens, because I go into it very unexpectedly, and I haven't found any characters yet that I'm not completely happy and in love with, and just laugh so much at their unique quirks and jokes that they do. Can you talk a little bit about your experiences with that, and how in the moment you kind of like develop the character, and whatever else you want to add on to it?
I think the character kind of comes from, it's more of just I don't know what the word is here, but over exaggerated of like how I am already. It's just taking that to like a different level, I would say, for me. I tend to be personally like into like the kind of comedy and making people laugh as just in general, whether that's at work or with my friends who I'm hanging out. I try to be like funny in a sense, and this was just kind of taking it just a step above like where I like normally comfortable is what I would describe it as. So this character was kind of like easy to just get into. It was just I think you said that the first one that I'm in is out now. I believe by the time they're hearing this. So this idea just kind of came from it was, most of it is improv, but I think it just comes from me just goofing off and and taking something and making it a little bit extra, adding a little bit of something to it. That's just really fun because it doesn't take too much thought of like how this character is gonna like respond or react to people. It's just kind of this natural, at least, response from me. But then it's just I take it up a little bit of a notch than like how I normally would act, I guess, for things. So it's kind of fun to experiment with how I normally would perceive things, and how my character would respond. So it's been really fun. I enjoy the idea of like this improv finite idea. It's really fun, and the episodes that you've shown me have been really fun to watch too, and it's just kind of off the cuff, and I like that. Unscripted, just kind of what can we find today that's going to be really funny, and what can we use to make this just like appealing to an audience. And it's been really enjoyable, the few episodes that we've shot for it.
I'm so happy to hear you say that, because it really is so off the cuff, and the way you described it is pretty much the way I describe a lot of it. That is literally, most of the people are just playing themselves or versions of themselves, and then just adding a little something extra. I can't tell you how many of the jokes in the series, from the first season to those side series to the second season, that come from work, to be honest. Everything from when, in the first season, when Scotty and I are, like, for instance, shooting these pretend bows, or like with having this pretend sword fight sort of thing, that all of our weapons are invisible per se and stuff. That was literally something we have to do at work, and picturing it now, I'm just like, I still chuckle. You know what, some of the stuff that happened. Anyways, moving on. So that same day, we also recorded a few episodes of Nathaniel's Kitchen, where I have been. Nathaniel's Kitchen is the show that I'm kind of cooking snacks that I personally enjoy, and then thanks to your show, which we'll talk about later, I was like, hey, you'd be really good for this, I think, just to play off with that idea. So, but I cook some snacks that I personally like to make and eat and stuff, or drink, without going into too much detail of like some of the stuff we had. So the first episode is already out, which I made the chicken bacon barbecue pizza, which was fantastic. I have to say, it was delicious as always. What was kind of your experience with that, though? What was did you really enjoy the food as much as you let on in the video?
That doesn't take a lot of acting for me. I think it's funny to say, like, food's a passion of mine, but I love eating, so it's just kind of one of my favorite things to watch sometimes in my spare time, or like if I'm scrolling on social media, is food videos. And I don't know why, but it's just so appealing, and I think some of that is not just the food itself, but how it is shot. I believe there's certain angles and certain tricks that make food look a lot more appetizing, even if it was gross or whatever. I think there's definitely a lot of tricks to that, obviously, for like commercials and whatnot. So when you told me about this idea for Nathaniel's Kitchen and something you wanted to do, I was all for it. One, because I just get to kind of watch and see how you were going to make, let's say, this barbecue chicken pizza that we created and tried and stuff, how you were going to make that look so good with your camera and filming, and how that would just like transpire into the finished product that you were going to put out. But the food tasting thing, that's no joke. That was one of the best things I've ever had. And I'm still I'm a little delayed on it, but I'm plan on making it for my fiance at some point here. Just got to get the materials, but I still remember, I got the list in my head of what I need to grab. But that was one of the funnest things and the tastiest things I've ever done. And it was just fun to watch and kind of see you in your element, using what you know about, film and stuff, and shooting, to to kind of make what I like, just finding in my spare time, just scrolling on social media, finding food videos like that look like everything that I see on whatever the platforms I happen to be on that day. So it was just really cool to just be a part of something like that and kind of see it come together full circle. And just it was just great. It was awesome.
I appreciate that. Now, talking about trying stuff, this leads us to the main story of today's episode. So, Ryan, can you tell me the story of Ryan and Sadie's food reviews and how that came to be and why it exists, and maybe even if I don't know how far ahead you plan for what you're trying and stuff, but can you tell me maybe some stuff that might be down the line possibly or might not?
All right, starting at the I guess the beginning for all this stuff is occasionally we would just get random. I guess I'm trying to pinpoint exactly when. For certain gifts and birthdays and anniversaries, Christmas, we would get each other gifts, and most of it would be like food related occasionally. And we had this shared love for Kit Kats, and there are so many different types of flavors of Kit Kats. A lot of them come from like Japan and China and different places like that, but there are some crazy flavors, and I think we would gift each other these, and then we'd try them, just the two of us, and then we'd like eat the whole bag or whatever after. But like I always thought, I was like, we always are trying these foods, but nobody else knows about it. Like, how are they going to know that we tried, like, apple cider Kit Kats? Like, how does that even, like, nobody's going to know about that. So eventually, it just got to the point where I think once I moved to, like, where I'm at now, in this apartment that I've been there for over 2 years now, but I would go, most of my food reviews were always, like, fast food new items, and I would do those just by myself. My fiance isn't much of a fast food eater, but that's I like that kind of stuff, and I'm always interested in new items, and I would always just get something. I would bring it home, or I would do it in my car, and I would make like a quick, I would use either like Snapchat or something else, and I would just do like quick little 30-second minute clips. But it got to the point where she also wanted to try some stuff and also wanted a bite of whatever good food I had or a good drink. And it got to the point where I was like, we should really, like, people were responding to us and messaging us saying, like, where'd you find, that drink, or where'd you find that food? So at this point, I was like, all right, let's start doing something with this. And I'm not that, I guess, like, tech savvy for like producing or whatever. I mean, we just kind of shoot in front of like one of our cell phones. We just set it up and talk and eat the food that way. But at first they started as like quick little like 1 minute things. We'd eat it, give it a rating on some sort of number scale, and then on to the next one. I mean, we did a couple live videos occasionally on our like personal Facebooks, where we tried like this pill that like changed your taste buds, so it made everything taste sweet, like things that were sour sweet and opposite and stuff, and hot like tastes like candy. And we would do like Facebook Live for that, and a couple other things, like when we found random things in superstores. But that was mostly like my mom would buy me a lot of just random stuff she saw, and really, most of the stuff we've tried on the show has been mostly donated to us. Occasionally I'll go and find stuff, but you kind of have to go and look. And there's times where I'm just too lazy, but people have been buying us food and just being like, so we have like this just kind of corner in our room that is just what we call our like random snack corner, I guess. And it's all these random things that we haven't tried before. But so we have all these things stockpiling up. But that's just kind of how it came to be. And then we decided to make a Facebook page for it, and it has gained some leverage behind it, and it's been really fun to do. Obviously, it doesn't take that much like time and effort for us. I mean, we just sit down and kind of eat and give our reaction to it. So it's been really fun. And you talked about like our future for that. I know COVID kind of was tricky, but it's getting, close to an end here at least. So our next kind of step is having guests on the show and having like some people close to us occasionally. And there's this guy from Nathaniel's Kitchen that I like kind of well, so he might be on it. That's a little teaser. But I've heard that that episode might be a lot different than all the others. But I'm excited. I'm really excited to get like some random people and friends that we know and kind of have them on and show them random snacks too, and that they get to then experience it with us at the same time. It's kind of like making a memory at the same time. Something that they haven't tried either. So it's pretty cool, and I'm excited about the future of that.
That sounds amazing, and it sounds like a lot of fun. And I actually really, really look forward to seeing how this all goes. And the guy from Nathaniel's Kitchen, he sounds pretty great to be on it, Who knows, maybe he can bring something, or who knows. It'll definitely be interesting to see maybe some sort of crossover or something. Well, Ryan, so comes to the end of the story, I guess. I appreciate you coming on and telling me a few stories. So why don't you tell the people where they can find you on Facebook and sign off?
Yeah, we have our Facebook page is just Ryan and Sadie's Food Reviews. I think you can type that all as like one word. But if not, just space it out. Ryan and Sadie's Food Reviews. It's a quick little thing. Actually, Nathaniel, you created our kind of banner and intro for us out of the generosity of your heart. So I do appreciate you. That was really cool. So it's kind of fun because it's been a crossover before you even knew it, to have kind of your seal on it, and it's really cool. But that's where you can find us. That's where we put most of our stuff. It just because we were posting mostly on our personal Facebook, so it just was easier for everyone to just kind of stay engaged with us right on Facebook. So that's where you can find us. And our videos are kind of sporadic right now. It's just kind of whenever we got the time. Obviously, work calls occasionally, and sometimes, you feel like editing. Sometimes you don't. It's just one of those things. But that's where you can find us right now. But thank you so much for having me on, Tell Me a Story. And I'm excited to see everybody else's stories and hearing some of their takes on things. And I'm really looking forward to future episodes.
Thanks for coming on, and thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I hope you join us next time for whoever we have on next to tell us a story. Until then, goodbye.